Hi, I'm Danny Nightmare.
I'm Gory Movie.
And it's gonna be a Scream.
Hello, Sydney.
5 Scream. You Scream.
Scream 5. Why did they just call it Scream 5? It's a sequel. It's a continuing story. It's not a remake. All right, rant over.
Movies do that. But I Scream, you Scream. We're all gonna go Scream for Scream.
I'm so excited.
I like Scream. I like the franchise. It might not be my favorite franchise, but it is very consistent. Like, there is no real bad entries in the franchise.
I have seen every single Scream movie in the cinema, starting with the very first Scream that I saw back in high school. I love this franchise. It is consistently good. I mean, the only one that's kind of disappointing is 3, but it's not a bad movie.
No, it's good. It's just disappointing compared to the rest. But I do like it. So, the bar is actually pretty high. I have high hopes for this one.
I've heard good things, and that trailer looks awesome.
Yep. So, we'll be right back.
Oh, I hope Stu is in this.
Well, we just screamed for the 5th time. Woo! Lots of screaming.
I'm really disappointed that they didn't time travel.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to, copy Stab 5. That's the one spoiler we're going to tell you. Things don't get sci-fi in this.
Yeah, because they mentioned in Scream 4 that in part Stab 5 it's got time travel. So I'm a little disappointed, but it's cool if, like me, you wanted to see that. There's a movie called Time Cut coming out soon. I just talked about it over on my channel, Gory Movie. My most anticipated movies of 2022. Movie called Time Cut that's supposed to be Scream meets Back to the Future.
That's by the director of Freaky, right?
Well, it's directed by Hannah, McPherson, I think? I can't remember her last name. But the producer is Christopher Landon, who did Freaky and Happy Death Day.
Because in my review of Freaky, I was saying that he should do a time-traveling Back to the Future slasher.
Well, he's producing it, so I think he owes you royalties.
Yeah. Send him this way.
Butter this palm.
We know where you got your idea. What else can he turn into a slasher movie? Ooh, Slash to the Future, where the guy has to go back to the future and All right. Anyways, so as the posters tell you in Scream, a lot of the legacy characters come back. I liked them being back. I wish they could add a little more time, but I loved Dewey. Dewey's great. And the great ghost face that you like and know, the one that's kind of clumsy, the one that gets its ass kicked, but still keeps getting back up to stab more.
The one that's out of the Three Stooges?
Yeah, that's one thing I always liked about Ghostface is because, Michael Myers and Jason, you wail them and it's hard to knock them down. Ghostface, a young girl can punch him in the face, or they in the face. They'll get back up and still stab, but...
It's like wrestling. They don't sell it.
Yeah, Ghostface sells.
Ghostface sells it. It's a good heel.
Yep, great on the phone. Cuts a great promo. A killer promo.
Really does. And the guy who does Ghostface's voice, I can't remember his name, Roger something or other.
L. Jackson, I think.
I think so. The guy, he also does Mojo Joe's voice. This is one of his better on-screen appearances. Well, on-phone appearances since the first one, because they give him a lot more monologues.
Would you like to play a game, Tara?
His voice is present throughout the movie, which is really great because he's still terrific. He's still got that kind of haunting vibe, and I love the way Ghostface toys with their victims in this one.
And that's why I do have a little bit of a supernatural element in my own personal theory about Ghostface. I do believe that it is kind of a hatred, spirit that kind of possesses the characters. That's why they all act the same on the phone, and they all act the same in the costume. But
like The Mask?
Exactly. It's
The Mask is haunted?
It's in part 3 had a ghost mom, so it's not saying there's no chance of that. That's my own personal theory.
We should hook Ghost Mom up with Ghost Dad from Jason Part 7.
Yeah, he's probably lonely on the bottom of that lake. Well, now that Jason's no longer there with him.
I just want everyone to have a happy ending.
It's called Scream, not Cream.
Ew, gross. You nasty. Something else I will say as a positive for this movie, the pacing is tight.
Yeah.
This movie, by the time I realized that we were, nearing the home stretch, I was like, wow, I feel like we haven't been here very long. Granted, that theater has some comfy chairs.
Oh, they just remodeled our classic theater.
Footrests.
Yeah, if you go up front, it's almost like you're sitting on this lounge couch. Oh,
like sunbathing while we're watching a movie.
I should have brought a Snuggie.
It's so good. So I was cozy, and I'm like, oh, the movie's almost over. And I did not feel the length of this movie at all. It just breezes right by.
Yeah, which, might be a little fast-paced for some, but then, I think the new generation will really appreciate that. Maybe they won't pick up their phone so much during the movie.
Yeah, don't pick up your phone during a Scream movie.
That's how you survive a Scream movie, and just basically don't have a phone.
And I will say there were a lot of Scream. I think what I like about Scream is they always have smart characters. And so even though we do see a lot of things happen in every Scream movie, like there's just certain things that you expect in a Scream movie, and you get some of that here. There are moments where the characters do the thing that you shout at the screen. So when you're shouting at the characters to hang up the fucking phone, then you're like, oh, they actually did.
Yeah.
Cool. You're smart.
I've seen this movie before.
Anyways, so I like a lot of the gore. I don't think Scream movies have necessarily ever needed a lot of gore, but this movie's gonna give you a lot more. Those kills are brutal. I almost think it might be a little cheap for the sympathy of the victims, because you do feel really bad for them just because how brutal those kills are, yeah.
You feel those kills.
Like, you hear it in the crunches, you hear it in the stab noises, you hear it. Like, it's deep.
And they just...
deep.
It's funny, because Ghostface I've never really thought of as like a super creative killer, because Ghostface is kind of like, stab, and then moving on to the next one. I think they did a good job of staying true to the character while still being creative with the kill. So it never feels like it's not Ghostface. Ghostface is a, chef's knife kind of guy.
Yeah. Except for like in Stab 8, apparently he's got a flamethrower, but in this one... I want to
see that.
Yeah, I want to see the Stab movies.
Stab 8 sounds cool. Stab 8 sounds awesome.
But why couldn't they just call it Stab 8? They called it Stab, we know it's Stab 8.
Now, something, and this could be a win for you, it could be a miss for you. Something I have heard when I talk to people who don't like Scream is they don't like how, they think it's too goofy, that it doesn't take itself seriously enough. If that's a miss for you, you're gonna like this one. This movie takes itself very seriously. There are jokes here and there, but this is a lot darker. This is a much more mean-spirited Scream.
This one just feels different.
For me, that didn't really work very well. I want a Scream movie with more levity. I want to leave the movie with a smile on my face. I like the jokes and stuff. This one, it didn't quite have that. But if that was a miss for you, then you're gonna like this. This might be your favorite Scream movie.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess some of the things we didn't really care for as much is there's a lot. The new characters, they're just kind of forgettable in a sense.
So,
and it just depends on a lot of name dropping. Like,
they introduced a new crop of characters in Scream 4. And that actually worked. Like, it shouldn't have worked, but it did. I actually got pretty invested in that crop of characters, especially Kirby. Rest in peace, my girl. I love Kirby. This crop of characters, they're not bad. I don't hate anybody in this. I just, they're not memorable to me.
Some of them are kind of a copy of a copy. And if you know what happens like when you get a copy of a copy, it's just kind of faded. I've seen a lot of these tropes. We've seen them in previous Scream movies, so it's nothing extraordinarily new. The actors, they weren't bad or anything, like you said. I think they all did their job pretty well. It's just...
They're all solid actors. There's a couple places where one person in the movie, I feel like that person's acting was a little Hallmark movie, and it didn't quite feel earned, but I also didn't know this character, so I was kind of like, what's going on with you? Yeah. But I will say, of them, Jenna Ortega is terrific. She needs to be in a lot more movies. Dylan Minnette is terrific. And I loved seeing Jack Quaid in this. I love him in The Boys, and he's great in this too. And I think, yeah, those were probably the characters I enjoyed most watching. I'm disappointed that I really didn't latch on to the new, main protagonist of this movie. Well, even amongst the kids, I would have rather Jenna Ortega be the new final girl. Because I did like her a lot. I didn't dislike the new protagonist, the main character, who they tell you pretty early on who that is. I just wasn't super invested in that character. And I really, even the characters I did kind of like, I didn't really, I mean, they could have been killed off and I wouldn't care. I was mostly here because I wanted to see Dewey, Sydney, and Gail. And sadly, the trailer makes you think that they're really in this movie. They are not really in this movie. Dewey's has more to do than the other two, but Sydney and Gail kind of just show up at the end.
Yeah, they're not a big part until later. Dewey, I do believe, delivers. He brought it.
I think it's one of the best on-screen portrayals of Dewey.
You cannot kill David Arquette, damn it.
I think it's one of the best Dewey performances I've seen in a long time. And it just feels like that character has grown so much. And so especially if you watch these movies from the beginning and you saw him as this new cop, and then now you see him as this older man who's just made it through all these movies. So It's just really cool, and I like that the character was... That's one instance where this movie being more serious worked for me, because these characters have been through some shit. Like, the legacy characters have been through some shit. So when it was serious with them, that worked for me.
Yeah. So I think this movie benefits on the fact that you've seen these movies, you grew up with them, you are going to automatically care about them. That's the stronger point. The weaker part is, I just personally didn't care about the new batch that much, because I know most of them were there for body counts and as suspects. They start pointing fingers very early on in the movie, and they do it the entire movie.
That's something I didn't like. So with the original, actually all the movies, they establish what are the rules of this movie. And before the rules are even established in this movie, these characters seem to know that they're in a Scream movie. They're apparently friends, but you wouldn't know it because immediately they are accusing each other of being the killer. And I mean, we know, the audience knows that the killer's going to be somebody introduced in the group of friends in the movie, but they shouldn't know. At least not right away. And so my thought was, if they don't really like each other, if they're going to accuse each other of being murderers, then how am I supposed to like them? How am I supposed to care about their relationships?
I guess maybe some of them, like how Randy in the first movie really didn't like Stu and Billy, and that's why he accused them right away. So maybe they really don't like each other. I don't know, but I wasn't that compelled to latch onto them.
And I mean, I think that is a good point, because Randy didn't like Stu and he didn't like Billy, but Randy was only there because he did like Sydney, and we believed that in that movie. Tatum was there because she's Sydney's best friend. Billy is there because that's Sydney's boyfriend. Stu is there because I understood the workings of this group, so not everybody was friends in it, but this group, yeah. I don't know why they're friends. I honestly don't know why they're friends.
Two of them are twins, so I get why they're together, like, in the group, but some of the other ones is like, why are they a group?
In a lot of ways, this movie does kind of like what The Force Awakens does, or even David Gordon Green's Halloween. It's really relying on the member berries, that nostalgia for the first one. This is really trying to appeal to people who loved the original film. So the way that those movies kind of rebooted it by showing you a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of callbacks, this movie does that too.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's a sequel.
A requel.
A requel, yeah, sequel reboot.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
There are parts of it where I would get really excited. I'm like, oh, that's something, from another movie that I really liked. And there were parts where I felt like it was just a little too on the nose, or maybe it was too soon after the last big one they did. So they were kind of hit and miss for me with the callbacks and the Easter eggs. I don't know, what'd you think?
They come at you really fast. And not all of them hit, I admit. But I did have a lot of fun watching it, so...
I would have liked it if they brought back the original score. I mean, they did bring back Red Right Hand, and they did bring back, Dewey's theme.
And Gail's song.
But, yeah, they brought back a couple things in there. But overall, the atmosphere of this one doesn't quite feel like a Wes Craven movie, and I think a way that they could have made it feel more part of this franchise is with music.
Yeah. I think they could have done a little better. I mean, sadly, this is the one that, we don't have Wes. I know that some of the other ones got taken out of his hands in a sense, but, they were changed. But at least he was there and he had some influence. This one, it was for Wes. And I think a lot of it, they did a good job about making it for him. But then there's some parts where it's like, it just doesn't feel right, without Wes.
A lot of it, though, feels kind of like a retread of what they tried to do with Part 4. I don't feel like because Part 4 was about the reboots, and that's kind of what this one's trying to do with the requels. And a lot of it kind of felt like, but we already explored this with characters I liked more. So for me, I would prefer 4 to this one. But I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's good. It's just, it didn't blow me away. I know it's blown a lot of people away. This wouldn't even be in my top 3.
I'm not sure where my rankings fall. I mean, I'll have to watch it again after I've given it some time.
I need to rewatch it again.
But I do say that I like it, and I would say that they still make good movies. I still think all 5 Scream movies are good. Some of them better than others, obviously, but I like the sequels. The original will still probably always be the best. I'm never expecting one to top that, but I do like this one a lot. I just don't know exactly where I will rank it yet with the other ones. Alright, well, I say scream it. Go see it. What do you say?
This is hard. I mean, I can't deny that I was disappointed, but you need to know my expectations were through the roof. I heard nothing but glowing praise for this movie. People saying it's as good or better than the original. For me, that is nowhere near the experience I had with this movie. For me, this movie just wasn't as fun as the other ones, and it's a little mean-spirited. I need to see it again. Because like I said, when you go to a movie and your expectations are through the roof, you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment. So I do need to see it again. But I guess going with normal expectations, don't be me. And if you don't catch it in the theater, it's okay.
You should see it.
I do think you should see it, but if there's other things you want to see in the theater right now, I mean, I would go see it anyway just because I love Scream so much. For me, this is like how people were hyped about Halloween. Like, I love this franchise so much. But if you're on the fence about seeing it and you're happy waiting for it to come out on streaming, that's okay.
Stream it, scream it, just see it. All right. Cut.
Cut.